In this video, we will find out why we want to layer sounds, which sounds we want to layer, and how to do it so that they sound like one piece. So why do we want to layer sounds? And as a side note, I want to really mention that I don't layer every sound in my production. It's really rare actually that I start layering sounds, because the reason why we want to layer sounds is that you have a sound which is not complete on its own. So you have a sound which is missing some aspects. It could be frequencies. So maybe the sound is very much in the lows and then you want to add some top end to it, or it could be dynamic. So maybe you have a bit floating sound and you want to add a little bit of pluck and things like that to it, or it's some other thing in the timbre which is just not there and you want to fill it out. And that's also the reason why I don't layer so much, because I usually choose sounds which are complete by itself. And I really see this as a technique if you are kind of like there, but there's still something missing, but you want to use the sound, and then you look for the complementary part which really makes it complete. But notice there's also a downside with that, because both sounds will play at the same times, the same notes, so they can get also into their ways. So you really need to take care of that, and I will show you a really cool technique later in this video how you can handle this the best. So how do you choose then sounds which complement each other? It's actually quite simple. So let's look here into a project of mine, and I have this acid sound here. We'll play it really quick. It changes quite over time, so I will loop this to show you. So I have two different sounds in here. It's both acid sounds, and just to be saying, it doesn't need to be from the same category. Actually, it can be a bit more tricky sometimes if they are too close together, because as I mentioned, you will have some overlap and then they will be fighting for some frequencies and other things in your mix. So sometimes it can be even better if you have them kind of like separated and have them different concepts. Now let's have a look how they sound. So this is like the one. And this is the other one. It just adds like a little bit of pluck and like mids to it here. I think it's nice because the one I move also a little bit more, and the other one I have a little bit more stable. I also shortened here the note lengths to get rid of the glides here, and added like a different kind of delay here. And I also processed it a bit so that it pushes here the highs a bit on that sound. So there's like also different processing on the second one. But this one I would say is my main one, and this is like the second one. And basically I have chosen them by picking my main sound and then copying it over like to our second chain here. And before I added all this stuff here, I was just flipping through the presets and listening to which one could fit here. And the thing is, you really want to have like a close listen to if this sound kind of like gives you what you have been missing in the initial sound, because it can always sound like interesting in the beginning if you have like a second thing, but really take care of evaluating if this thing really improves it or not. If you get any value out of this video, then please hit the thumbs up. That shows me which topics you are interested in. But now comes the trick actually in layering sounds. So what you want to do, you don't want to process them too differently from each other. I did this here because I had a reason, for example, to take the glide off, also to reduce here a bit the low. And sometimes I even go very drastic so that I just take like the top from the second sound so that they would look like this maybe. And the other one then may have also like a cut so that I have like less overlap. But usually I try to not process them too differently. Only intentional. So that's the point of it. If you do it, then have an intention. Why? Because the real trick of layering sounds is that you then run them together through a chain. So you could either have like two channels and group them, or like here I have them in the instrument rack grouped. But this is basically where both of them go through. And so I have the kind of like the same overdrive, saturation, distortion thing and I have like a bit crush on it. I have some common EQing, I have like a delay. So because that will all make your sound glued together. So that's really important that you have this common processing in layered sounds, because otherwise it won't get together to one unit as much as without. If you aren't already subscribed to this channel, then please subscribe to this channel and hit the bell icon. That will notify you when new videos get out there, and there will be a lot of cool videos coming about leads and melodies. So if you don't want to miss them, then hit the bell icon. So we could actually have a look. So if we have this here, soloed, and I turn this off. I don't know how much you can hear it, but I feel it becomes way more one sound. I mean, obviously the difference is quite high because all the processing adds a lot to the sound itself, but this is like a very important step. And now comes the special trick, and that's actually a trick I learned from a friend for layering things. I didn't never think about this. I mean, I use like a lot of OTT and multiband compressors in my production on leads, but the way he expressed it, and I think it made like a lot of sense, is those multiband compressors, for those who don't know them, they have like multiple bands. So you have like one band here until 157 hertz, and then it's like the mid band, and this goes to 2.4 kilohertz. I mean, you can define those bands. It's all up to you how you set it up. But the idea is you have like this different bands for like lows, mids, and highs. And notice there's nothing below like 100 hertz usually in my production here in leads. So the low band is basically 100 to 160 hertz here. And then you have those three bands, and the OTT kind of like balances those bands. So you have this lower bars, which basically do an upward compression. So whenever your sound falls below a threshold, they push the sound, they give it additional boost in volume. And whenever it goes into the red one here, then it will reduce the sound. So it's quite balanced. So whenever it goes too low, it gets pushed, and whenever it gets too high, it gets ducked. And if you have two sounds and they are complementary, then it's really nice because they are kind of like squished together in that way. And you can do some really crazy things with that. So for example, if you imagine that this balance kind of like gets established by this multiband compressor, then even if you do a lot of things here, for example, like mangling with the cutoff, the differences aren't so drastic. I mean, notice, of course, the compressor takes some time to act, so you will see spikes, and you want to have those spikes in the frequency spectrum, which make your sound more interesting, but in the whole, it gets balanced out, and that's pretty nice. If you have never released a track at a label, then this is the new course for you. I will be starting a new course on the 1st of November, and I will lead 5 people to a release. So I will teach you everything I know about production. So you will learn each step of the production which is necessary to create a great track. And I also will help you in each stage so that you really end up with a blueprint of a perfect track, which is not only released, but kind of like the future building stone of your Psytrance career. And if you want to take part in this, all you need to do is you need to sign up in the waiting list. So you find a link up here or in the description box below. So let's have a quick listen, maybe with and without the OTT. Also notice there's like a lot the highs pushed here, so you can see sometimes it's like plus 10 dBs. Sometimes now it gets like this crazy amount because the sound is falling off. But if you look at the peaks while it's playing, it's like 10 dBs, sometimes even pushed. Also here the output is pushed. So this also skews the frequency range more towards the high end and makes the sound more bright and shiny. But that's the main trick. To sum it quickly up, you have one main sound, then you click through your presets and choose the second complementary sound, which should reflect what's missing in your first sound. And then you process them, each one individual, just a bit to make them really fit together and not get too much into their ways. And once you have done this, then you run them through a chain and process them together to make them kind of like one piece. And in the end, you add this OTT to balance them out. So that's, I think, the best cooking recipe I found so far for making layered sound. And I hope you enjoyed. And let me know in the comments if you have used layered sounds and how you did use them. I'm always eager to learn. If you want to know more on creating leads, I have a full playlist up here, which is about creating leads, which you can check out next.